needs to go. There's no Joe Woods 5 anymore. That's dead. But the question is, who do you replace him with? I would make this argument. I would not get so caught up in who specifically, because more than likely the defensive coordinator that they hire, you're not going to know his name. He's going to be some unknown. They're not going to hire Mike Zimmer or something like that. I don't think that's likely. I don't think Mike Zimmer comes out of pseudo-retirement to coach the Browns defense. I don't think they get a Brian Flores or something like that. That would be great, but I don't think they get that. They're going to have to pick another position coach to promote. Hopefully not from within the staff. And it's important that we, instead of focusing on guys, old Greg Williams and like guys that we know, let's focus on some traits that we want this guy to have. Because that's how a job search is actually done. You create traits that you want out of an individual, and then you seek those traits out. And the traits that I want to see from the next defensive coordinator is I've been thinking about this game, what it means for the Cleveland Browns, what it means for the fans, and what it means for everybody involved with this team. Because this is a weird situation where you can look at the Browns record at 3-6 and you can see it as a disappointment. You can see it as the Browns meeting the expectations of what people expected of them without Deshaun Watson. Right? It was only here locally that some of us saw the potential in this team, even without a quarterback. And a lot of that was predicated on the defense being as talented as they are, which we have seen being demonstrated during this year. And the offense being better than people expected because we have guys like Nick Chubb, we have Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and that assumption was half right that a lot of people, myself included, locally made of this team because the offense exceeded almost everybody's expectations. And the offense played so well unexpectedly that the expectations for the team changed because the assumption was that was the part we were worried about, right? The offense was the part that we were concerned about during the suspension. It wasn't the defense. So we assumed that eventually the defense was going to get it together. But the defense, I think it's fair to say, is not going to get it together anytime soon because the defense has a number of problems that are just not fixable within the season. I can start a list of those problems, and I probably will get to a list of those problems at some point in this video, but that's not where I want to put my focus on. What I want to put my focus on is we all feel disappointed, and I think that's a valid thing to feel, right? I'm not one to move the goalpost on you and say, oh, why are you disappointed? Nobody expected anything of this team because we expected this team to be better, right? We wanted 5 to 6 wins, and we're barely able to get 6 right now. And that includes beating the Buffalo Bills and Tom Brady. Still could get it. Still haven't completely let down expectations. But the ability to exceed expectations has been taken away. There is no chance that this team's getting to 7 wins without Deshaun Watson, 8 wins. Like that's off the table now. And that hurts. The manner in which you went to this record hurts, right? When you go down to this record, and I said this at the beginning of the year, we put so much emphasis every year on the schedule. And there's like 3 types of people every year. When the schedule gets released and when people start making record predictions, there's 3 types of people. There's one, the type of person who is going to predict their team to go 12-5 no matter what, right? 12 wins no matter what. 12 wins, only losing a division game or two. We all know that guy. Sometimes I'm that guy, right? If I'm feeling good, sometimes I'm that guy. I see the glass half full. I see the potential in everybody. I see the weaknesses in everybody else, and we live in that. Then there is somebody else who, the doomsday prepper is what I like to call them, right? Who can only see how things can go catastrophically wrong for their team, right? And the doomsday prepper is going to assume that somebody's going to tear their ACL, that somebody's going to underperform, that somebody that was good last year was an absolute fraud, right? We all know this dude. We all have work with this dude. We all are related to this dude or woman or person. Like, we know this type of fan, the doomsday prepper, right? Always preparing for absolute football disaster. The doomsday preppers, by the way, they thrive in times like these, right? Where morale is low, where the win total is low. These brothers and sisters are in the comment section harvesting the next generation right now of doomsday preppers when it comes to sports fandom. We all know the doomsday prepper, right? So there is the eternal optimist. There is the doomsday prepper. And then there is the quote unquote realist who will always predict their team to go like 500 or something like that, right? Like they're the realist. But what they're really doing is playing it safe, right? Like, I could respect the doomsday prepper because, sometimes everybody's high on the team and the doomsday prepper still going to do their thing and predict the team to go, it's like 6-10 or something like that. And that takes balls. Or everybody might be low on the team and the optimist dude predicts 10 wins. I feel like that takes guts. Picking your team to go 500 takes absolutely no guts. And the reason I say that is everybody who picks their team to go 500 does so to, quote unquote, protect themselves from high expectations. As if that ever works, right? I'm going to protect myself from high expectations. Where in life does that work? And it definitely don't work in football, right? You can go into a relationship with somebody trying to protect yourself from high expectations. But if that person that you like breaks it off with you, you still going to be sad, right? There's no point in doling your own enjoyment in preparation of future heartbreak, because future heartbreak still going to break your heart no matter how much you prepare for it, right? You can prepare for something all you want. It's going to hurt. And this is why I say with the schedule every year, it does not matter what we predict the record to be. It does not matter what the expectations are at the beginning of the year, because no matter what, it's not the record that we react to. It's how we get to that record. And the reason Browns fans are this distraught over 3-6 isn't because they're 3-6. There's a world where the Browns show absolutely no potential in week 1. Maybe they scrap by, maybe they don't. And the Browns end up at 3-6 and nobody really cares. We're just waiting for Deshaun. But the way the Browns went 3-6 was probably the most agonizing way to go to 3-6. We wouldn't be this upset about 3-6 if the team looked like they sucked from day one. We really wouldn't. We would understand this season for what it's ultimately going to be, which is a prelude to Deshaun Watson's era in the city. We can see that the potential for this team is here. That this team did not have to be mediocre, that this team did not have to be pathetic, but it feels like at points they chose it, whether it's poor effort in one area or just plain incompetence in others. So what needs to happen next, right? I think, and I know some people don't like this, but Kevin Stefanski is beyond safe at this point. The offense is fine. And look, I know the argument, right? I hear you. I don't think it's a good argument, but I hear you. Kevin is the head coach. The head coach is supposed to be in charge of both sides of the ball. Now, me and you watching this video, both know that's not true in the modern NFL. Like, be real with me. Be real with me, my guy. You know that that's not how this works anymore. Maybe there was a day, and maybe in lower levels of football, that's most certainly true. College football, kind of true. NFL, that's not true. Mike Tomlin, the second highest tenured head coach of all time, in the NFL right now, active, he has some control over the offense, but ultimately, the offense is up to the offensive coordinator. And for Mike Tomlin's best years, Mike Tomlin had no say in the offense, right? Especially when he had those higher name offensive coordinators. He's a defensive coach. He was hired for his defensive prowess. Bill Belichick, similar. We can go down the list of guys. Andy Reid, we know what they're in charge of. Andy Reid's not going to get fired because the defense is bad in Kansas City. The defensive coordinator is going to get fired. So we can make he's the head coach and he should be in charge of the whole unit. We all know that that's not how this works. We know that Kevin's going to be judged on the offense, on specific managerial tasks as a head coach. There are some managerial things in which he's in charge of, right? One of those things is firing his subordinates. At some point, he's going to have to fire Joe Woods. If he tries to roll Joe Woods into next year, that's a fireable offense for Kevin Stefanski. But Joe Woods being bad at his job, that's not inherently a fireable offense for Kevin Stefanski. Now, if he keeps hiring terrible defensive coordinators, that's on him. And then that needs to change. And then that's probably going to lead to a change on him. But right now, at this point in Kevin's career, he's good enough offensively to where you're going to live with the mistakes that he's made early in his career. So Kevin's not going anywhere. He shouldn't go anywhere. This offense has been pretty good for most of the year, at least, with a backup quarterback, with missing pieces on the offensive line and no David Njoku. They figured it out most of the time. Hasn't been perfect every game, but given what they've had, they've had more performances that have impressed me than not. We know the issue is on defense. Now, I think it's obvious and inherently obvious that everybody believes Joe Woods needs to go. There's no Joe Woods 5 anymore. That's dead. But the question is, who do you replace him with? I would make this argument. I would not get so caught up in who specifically, because more than likely the defensive coordinator that they hire, you're not going to know his name. He's going to be some unknown. They're not going to hire Mike Zimmer or something like that. I don't think that's likely. I don't think Mike Zimmer comes out of pseudo-retirement to coach the Browns defense. I don't think they get a Brian Flores or something like that. That would be great, but I don't think they get that. They're going to have to pick another position coach to promote. Hopefully not from within the staff. And it's important that we, instead of focusing on guys, Greg Williams and like guys that we know, let's focus on some traits that we want this guy to have. Because that's how a job search is actually done. You create traits that you want out of an individual, and then you seek those traits out. And the traits that I want to see from the next defensive coordinator is a former player, somebody with real NFL playing experience. Now, he was on a roster for like 2 weeks. Real deal NFL veteran. He doesn't have to be a big name player. You don't got to hire Ray Lewis or Ed Reed or something like that. Even though Ed Reed would be an intriguing signing. But the reasons I want a former NFL player is I feel like one of the downfalls of this coaching staff has been their handling of the people stuff. I find it often that in these analytic-led front offices that the people stuff, it's just subpar sometimes. The locker room stuff, how you manage things, how you talk to guys, how you promote guys, demote guys. The analytic guys ain't that good at that because they're used to looking at this game through paper, which is fine. It's a valid way to look at the game. But I think it misses some things that are especially important on defense. While I don't buy this whole argument that Kevin Stefanski has to give these Ray Lewis rah-rah speeches in order to be a good coach and motivate grown men to play football, I do think that there is something to having somebody with that intensity in a position of power on your football team. Now, they don't have to be the head coach, but they can be the offensive or defensive coordinator. Now, we know Kevin ain't going to roll like that, and whoever's the offensive coordinator is going to be a direct understudy of Kevin Stefanski, so it's probably not going to happen there. So the defensive coordinators where you have the option to have that balance, and that's what I'm looking for the Browns to find in this coaching staff is balance, right? How can you balance out this staff? Because while I don't think that this is a fireable thing for Kevin, I do think there is a little bit of something to, hey, we're too much of one thing on the sideline, right? It's all the Kevin Stefanski stuff. And I think there's room for a little bit of diversity there when it comes to thought and mindset. And that can help with game planning. That can help through the week with player management. And that can help, obviously, on game day. So I do think they should look for more of a football guy to be the defensive coordinator. Less of an analytics guy, more of a football guy. That doesn't mean he has to abandon analytics, but he should be more of a football guy, right? Like Brian Flores would be a perfect hire because he's kind of both. But that's kind of what you want, right? That's kind of the traits that I'm looking for. Is somebody who can tote that line a little bit better and maybe relate to the players a little bit better, because I think Kevin has a problem with that. I think Alex Van Pelt has a problem with that. I think it's clear that Joe Woods has a problem with that, given that players can't stop subtweeting them at press conferences. Not a coincidence, man. Not a coincidence. So those are a couple of the traits that I want. I don't really have a preference, 3-4 or 4-3, and here's why. The big reason you don't want to switch 3-4 to 4-3 is because you don't want to go through a personnel change like that. But I think as badly as the coaching staff needs to be changed out on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of the players need to be moved out. Purely because, one, I think they're too used to like being bad. And we know that being a bad team leaves a funk on players. Good players, it just leaves a funk on them, right? When they're playing in the same position with the same players and they leaving that funk up there, it just leaves it up there for everybody, right? Like it just sticks in the locker room. We've seen this, right? As good as Joe Thomas and Joe Hayden were, we always felt like we was going to lose when they was on the team, and that stuck with them for a while. They had to Joe never changed scenery, but Joe Hayden had to change scenery in order to find success. And I think that's happened to this defense. They don't believe in each other. They don't believe in what they're doing. They need to not be on the same team no more. So any unrestricted free agent that's about to hit the streets this year can hit the streets. Like, I don't think we need to bring any of them back. John Johnson's probably gone. And look, I'm not going to cut every player on the defense. I know it sounded like I said that when I said pick six, but I would say this. Everybody on their rookie deal is safe right now, but just because you're coming back on your rookie deal should not guarantee you a spot. Like Grant Delpit should not have a spot guaranteed for him. But pick six players that aren't on their rookie deal, and that's who you're keeping. Everybody else got to go. Straight up. There is something gross in this locker room on the defensive side that is leading to guys quitting on the team, quitting on plays, not playing hard. How many times have we had to hear Myles Garrett say it's an effort thing? How many times have we had to hear Joe Woods say it's an effort thing? One too many times. We've heard it say them like 3 times this year. You got to get whatever funk's in there out, and the only way to shake it out is to just get rid of most of the guys. They got to go. So 3-4-4-3, I don't care. Myles Garrett going to be good in either one. I would prefer going to a 3-4 if you ask me, because I think Myles could do more out of a 3-4. I think he would be good out of a 3-4. You can put him at some of those 3 technique positions where he's not going to have to like worry about anchoring or playing nose. And playing a 3-4 will put more of an emphasis on the defensive line when it comes to drafting. You will be able to have JOK be able to play a lighter linebacker position without having to be on one specific side of the field, so he can just be a Mike or a Sam or something like that, or just like kind of sit outside but still be outside of the line of scrimmage. Or you could play him like you could do a lot of things. But you know, I would say you're gonna have to change over, I would say, at least 50% of this defensive roster. And you're gonna have to get rid of 100% of the defensive coaching staff. And there's probably some good coaches in there you're gonna have to let go, but you just gotta get rid of the funk. Offensively, they don't have this problem. The offense has had bad games, but I've never watched the offense and been like, man, Nick Chubb's not running hard. Have you ever watched the offense and felt like Jacoby Brissett wasn't giving it his all? Have you ever watched the offense and felt like Joe Bitonio was loafing it? I know people complain about Jed Wills for the dumbest reasons. Like the last time I heard was, oh, he has a visor and some Jordans, so like we don't like him. That's so dumb. But like the offense don't give up. The defense is the one that gives up, that quits. You got to get rid of most of the players, 50% of the starters, and you got to get rid of all the coaches there. If they refuse to do that this offseason, that's going to change the trajectory in my mind of Andrew Berry's future with this team and Kevin Stefanski's future with this team. Because while I think that they are good at their jobs in a vacuum, part of their job is making a tough decision like this. Is getting rid of players that you bet on. Getting rid of coaches, men that you knew, that you worked with for a while, that you personally bet on to be great. To be a great defensive coordinator, and to be a great defensive line coach, and to be a great DB coach, and to be a great pass game coordinator, and to be a great run game coordinator on the defensive side. People you bet on. People you probably love. People you got to fire. If you can't make those decisions, you're not an NFL head coach, because the NFL head coach is not about controlling the defense if you're an offensive mind. It's about managing the coaches. It's a management position. If you can't do that, you can't have the job. So if Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski want to die on this hill, it's a weird hill to die on, but it is a hill that they will die on. And that will be the beginning of the end. So it's going to be interesting times. Look, I don't expect anything during the middle of the season, but we'll see what happens when Deshaun comes back. We'll see how they finish the year. And we'll see what happens in the offseason. It's going to be interesting no matter what they do, because it's going to be discussion worthy. But that's my thoughts on it. I know my last video was very angry. And I still stand by most of what I said in that last video. I think everything of what I said in that video. But I wanted to give a more thought out explanation of the solutions that I put out in that video, because I think that's what's needed right now. Instead of just rambling and screaming and trying to get a hot take because we're scared that the fan base is becoming disinterested in the team and there's not much attention to go around. So I'm going to say the loudest thing and the craziest thing as loud as possible to get your attention, to keep the view count up. I feel like we come here, the people who come here because they appreciate the nuanced, detailed conversations we can have about the tough things about this team and the good things about this team. Let me answer my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.